Hi, and welcome to the Invoice Expert System Overview. During this presentation, we will cover system options, invoices, customers, and product. Hi, now that we've gone over what we're going to cover, let's just get into it. I want to spend a few minutes and kind of show you the navigation of Invoice Expert. When you first open the software, you're going to come to the dashboard screen. This gives you a number of different graphs to kind of show you where your current aging, your product sales by category, and your product profit by category. The system is laid out via tabs. You can click directly on the tab, or you can use the menu bar up here. Each and every section is set up as a search screen. So you see here, for now I have it set up customer name, and it contains the word presentation. You notice that there's no customers in here is because during this demo we're going to create a new customer, and his name's going to be presentation. I also want to point out this area right here. It says results at a time. The system is designed to only show 25 records at a time. You can change this to 50, 100, or if you want your entire database, all of them, and then you can export them to Excel if you wish. The same works for products and invoices, recurring invoices, which are used for, say, if you have monthly billing or annual support. You can see the current invoices due, all of your reoccurring invoices. And then with quotes works just like Invoices does, which we're going to get into. And then the reporting. The reporting is set up where you can hit the drop-down list and pick an item and click Run Report, and it'll show up right down here. But for our purposes, let's go back to the dashboard. I want to take a few minutes and kind of show you the company information. We're not going to go over everything contained within this, but I want to highlight a few areas that are specific to the invoicing and customers. The main company information contains your company name, your address, and your phone number, fax, email, but these two boxes can be anything you wish. You can also select your company logo if you want. So for now, let's go ahead and go over to Invoice Defaults. Right now I have it set up to use professional invoice number 2. We actually have a number of styles that you can choose from, which are all available for preview on our website at invoiceexpert.com. You can see my default payment type is check, my default payment terms is none, and I've got it set up to be able to create and update customers from invoices and quotes. And I highlight this just because we're going to just demonstrate how that works. Also, if you notice over here, the invoice display text, these are the items on how they will print on your printed invoice. So if you don't want the SKU number to say SKU, you can change it to anything you want, and that goes for all of these different fields. Over here is your tax settings. We offer a number of different ways to set up your tax. For us, for our purposes, we only have really one tax rate, and the printed description is tax. But if you wanted to say GST or VAT or anything else, you would simply change it right here and then would update it. Once you're done setting up your tax settings, actually I'm going to go into one other area, email. The system is designed to use your email settings. We get a lot of questions about this, but it's basically set up so if you're using Gmail, it would be smtp.gmail.com and the port would actually be 587, and then it would be your Gmail username and your Gmail password. But one thing I do want to point out is down here, the invoice from has to be equal to your username. When you're all done, you can click sit on Update Settings, and it'll give you an Update Complete, and we're ready to go. So let's go ahead and start creating our first invoice. So for now, I'm going to click on Invoices, and then on the right over here, I'm going to click on Add Invoice. And what it's going to do is it's going to give me a blank invoice screen. You have a few ways to do it. You can always select a customer from the drop-down, or like we're going to do, this is a new customer, we're going to go ahead and type in their name. So the customer name is going to be presentation and sales at invoiceexpert.com. My billing name is going to be the same as my customer name, and I'm not going to fill out the address right now. The customer's kind of in a hurry. So then I can come over to the ship to and say, this is the same as the billing information. I can select a default ship by. For our purposes, it's going to be none. And then I come over to the invoice settings. You can see the payment terms are none, as we had set up, or you can say it's on receipt, COD, the 1st of the month, the 15th of the month, net 30, 15. But for us, we'll just do on receipt. And just to point out of all of this information I've filled out, the only thing that is required to get an invoice going is a customer name. Now that I have all this information, I need to click on Add Update Invoice. You'll notice that it comes back, the invoice has been added. You can see the invoice number here, the invoice date, and all the other information pertaining to it. So let's go ahead and add an item. You can also, once again, select from the drop-down list, or you can go ahead and type in a product name, such as Invoice Expert, and click Search Database. I'm not going to do that right now because it would find it and then automatically fill everything in. For our purposes, I'm going to go ahead and pretend like this product doesn't currently exist in the system. So we'll do the item name as presentation, the item number, the SKU number, and the description, and we'll add presentation, item, description, if I can spell. And it's going to be a quantity of 1, and my item price is $25, and my item cost is $7.50. Now that I've entered this information, I'll go ahead and click on Update Item. And you'll notice now that it's been added to my invoice, and all of my items have been automatically calculated. You see down here this little Show Profit Details? This allows you to take a look at what the profit is of this current invoice. By default, this information is hidden, but if you ever want to see where the invoice stands, you can simply click here and take a look. Now that I've entered all this information, let's go ahead and click on Add Update Invoice. From here, if I wanted, I could go ahead and print a packing slip. I can print the invoice. If you want, we'll take a look at that. And let me make this a little smaller so that it actually fits in the video. And you can see here where it has my presentation, the description, the bill to information, my company information, and all the other relevant details of this invoice. The sample you're looking at here is invoice number 2. Now, I could come over here and add a payment. I can also add notes. This field is actually unlimited, so you could type a book if you wished. But before I take payment, I'm going to go ahead and close out of this invoice, and I want to show you a few things. You can see here, if I click on the invoice automatically showed up in my list. You can see the items that are part of this invoice. You can see over here, I searched for products, and the product was automatically added to my database. And customers, you can see this customer was automatically added to my database. So by simply creating an invoice and typing the information in there, the system created the customer, created the invoice, and created the item. So now let's go back in and let's go ahead and edit this invoice. So if I come back in here, let's say hypothetically that the customer is now ready to pay. I simply click on Add Payment, and it'll default to the balance due, the payment type of check, the payment amount. You can change this to multiple different options. For us, we'll just hypothetically say Other, and then click on Update Payment. Now I want you to notice that now my balance has gone to 0 and the status of my invoice has gone to paid. And at this point, I'm done. I can either print a final invoice if I want, or I can just go ahead and click on Update, and we have now completed that invoice. And you'll notice it's no longer in this list. For me to see it, I'd have to select Paid Invoices here, and there it is. A few other things I want to point out is you can export this entire list to Excel. The same goes with products, you can export it, and customers, you can export it. But let's go back to the product. I want to show you another thing. So in here, I can go ahead and select, let's set this category to resale. Also, you can see here the sales history. You can look at every time that this product's been sold and every invoice it's been sold on. And again, you can export it to Excel. You can also set a stock level, and we'll just set it at 100. And the barcode and a bin location and your tax information. Obviously, a lot of items here, and we're going to be adding more as time goes on. But let's go ahead and click on Update Product. At this point, we have now completed our first invoice. We've created our first customer. We've added a new product to the database. And if I come back to the dashboard and click on Refresh Graphs, you can see here that my product profit by category, because I now have a resale item, is now showing up. And if you highlight, you see it also gives you the total dollars. And then you can also look at total sales by category. And of course, back to the invoice aging. If we come back over here to reporting, I can now run my invoice profit report, and you'll see the new report, the new invoice that we created is located right here. I hope you enjoyed this overview, and remember, you can always visit us at invoiceexpert.com.